Welcome to the Trainer Talk, where we discuss topics related to health and fitness to help you gain back control of your health and fitness and become the absolute best version of yourself physically and mentally. Enjoy. Today we're going to talk about confronting our weaknesses and by doing so, hopefully turning those weaknesses into strengths. So we have a few different things that we can go over. We can relate this to a lot of things. We'll focus on probably fitness first. We could relate it to our nutrition, and then provide some context and advance and examples that make it make sense, make it very, very simple, and why it's so important. So a lot of times when we come into the gym, for example, people are, they really like certain exercises or they really like a certain method. So they're like, oh, I really like strength training and I love dumbbell work. So I'm just going to go in there and do dumbbell work every single time. But then they find out that their cardio is struggling. They're gaining strength, but their cardiovascular endurance or their cardio, their health is not so good. So they're focusing all this attention on their strength, and then they have this weakness of their cardio. We need to identify that and then work on improving those areas, because by doing so, everything else will come up with it. Just for me, I'll provide an example. It's not so much like my cardio was weak and my strength was good, but I was focusing so much on competitive CrossFit that my joints and back were taking a sacrifice, taking a beating. So my knee started giving me issues, my back started giving me issues, and then my shoulder, because we were doing such hard competitive CrossFit. So I'm focusing so hard on doing what I love, which is competing in CrossFit, but I was neglecting taking care of, my health of my knee, my back, and my shoulder. So eventually that started to hold me back from progressing any further. I could not improve until I addressed those weaknesses. So right now I'm taking a step back and I'm focusing on developing a strong back, a strong core, knee, accessory exercises, rehab exercises, shoulder, stretching, mobility, and rehab exercises. And then once I've made those weaknesses strengths, I'll get back into my CrossFit competitively and I will be stronger, faster, and better and without pain. So that's my example of it. Doran, what sticks out to you as far as maybe a weakness of yours that you could focus on and make it a strength?
Right now, the weakness of mine is just my engine, my cardio, being able to get through like the cardio portion, the metcon portion of the workouts. And that's because for so long I was so dedicated to the bodybuilding part. And so I neglected a lot of my cardio. And then when I started doing CrossFit, I realized that is the area that I was lacking in the most. So I had to take some time out away from my bodybuilding and put it into that more cardio portion. So my goals changed a little bit. But what I found after doing it for about 5 or 6 months now is that overall everything has gone up. So like I thought I was going to lose muscle when I started taking away from my bodybuilding, but in fact, I actually just decreased a little bit and I gained muscle everywhere in places that I didn't have before. So yeah, bodybuilding, you really have to, those places where you're really comfortable in. So like for me, it was bodybuilding, and the places I spent most time on, you have to take some away from that and put it into the area where you're lacking.
Yeah.
And so that's just how you become healthier overall. Or if you're an athlete, that's how you become a better athlete overall.
Yeah.
Yeah, especially, those limiters get to a point where they do hold you back from making progress on the things that you love. Like if you really love bodybuilding, but your cardio is really lacking, you get in the sense of 8 or 10 or 15, and it ends up being your lungs and your heart is what's stopping you and not the fatigue in your muscles anymore. And so by bringing that up, you're actually able to build more muscle because you're able to get more volume in and then actually grow your muscles. So that's a really cool example too. And then like with the injury, if you didn't address it, if you didn't confront it, that's where the problems lie. If you don't address, hey, these are my weaknesses, and then how can I improve them, you're never going to get better long term. So always trying to bring them up to the other level that you're at with the things that maybe you started off really, really good at. that's what gives that long-term progress and getting your goals. Keep continuing, getting better each time. For me, like I'll kind of use a little bit of an example for myself with gymnastics. So just more like the skills part of it, of the handstands, mostly anything overhead is like a bigger weakness for me. I like to say sometimes that it's because I have really long arms. That's probably doesn't help, but it's something that's always kind of been a weakness, and you kind of avoid your weaknesses because you don't want to feel. You kind of want to. You don't want to bruise your ego. It's uncomfortable to suck at something.
Yeah.
And you're falling all over the floor. You don't look graceful when you're trying to walk on your hands, and you're like, I feel like I look like an idiot trying to do this, but that's doing those hard workouts or working on those weaknesses is the only way you're going to get better.
Mm-hmm.
And like you do start to get better. Like you start actually being able to kind of walk on your hands. You start learning things through the failures or through embracing that difficult moment. So, taking time away from the things that you really like the, Olympic lifts. I love the Olympic lifting, and maybe not focusing so much on that, but then carving out time specifically to focus on the weaknesses, like the gymnastics for me personally, and adding that in. It's almost like it just gives you a little bit more to work on, just gives you a little bit more progress. Sometimes when you're not seeing it in other things, you can see progress almost faster on your weaknesses because you neglected them for a long time. And if everything else is at a higher level, you can see a little bit more progress faster that way.
Mm-hmm.
And then it blends into everything else too. You just feel like you're getting better overall, and then drives your motivation.
Yeah. And sometimes people are never exposed to their weaknesses either.
No.
So if I just never came out here and tried working out with you guys and just sat in the weight room the entire time and just did bodybuilding, I would never been like, hey, my cardio is not good. I'm not good with balance or stability.
Yeah.
So kind of
mobility too.
Yeah,
like
mobility.
When you first started doing cleans and snatches, like your overhead mobility and your shoulders were really tight and stiff, and now you're getting more functional. So carrying over to everything else that you do.
Yeah. So if you're never exposed to those, you're just blind to the fact that these are areas that you struggle in. So that's why I think it's important to include all types of fitness, whether it's cardio, strength training, stability, mobility, into your training plan and fitness, so you can identify those areas that you're weak in and work on.
Yeah, for sure. So, I love all this, and that's kind of a little bit about what our weaknesses are and how we're focusing on those. So how can we relate this to kind of like the general public? Maybe it's a beginner or just, your average busy mom or dad that just wants to be healthy and fit. So if you think about the average, typically the guys, they want to come in here and they like working upper body. That's kind of the normal thing. That's probably what you did mostly. Like I remember you saying you only did legs maybe once a month or a couple times a month.
Yeah.
And so you're obviously neglecting that because you didn't want to do it. You were more comfortable doing upper body, and then you didn't want to do any cardio. Like that's super typical of the guys. They don't do any cardio. They just want to do arms, shoulders, chest, back, legs once a week or maybe a couple times a month. And so, and not to get like too into progress and stuff, but by doing more compound movements, like the squat and the deadlift, it helps with releasing growth hormone, testosterone. You're actually going to get stronger and bigger everywhere just because you're doing those movements. So not to get like too into the weeds or anything, and then with females, most of the time they want to tone, which is a fancy word for building muscle.
Yeah.
Even though they're scared to build muscle. So they just stick to running on the treadmill or doing a bunch of cardio and dieting. So that's what the general fitness, that's kind of where people go. Whereas if a female really wants to actually be toned, they need to couple their cardio with what? Weight training. They need to be doing some sort of resistance training, such as a bodybuilding split or CrossFit or a class where they're doing functional movements to build lean muscle as they're dropping their body fat. That's what develops the tone look. So by getting out of your comfort zone and doing uncomfortable things that you wouldn't normally do, addressing those weaknesses, that's where you're going to make the progress. By adding in more legs, a little bit more conditioning, you're fitter overall. You probably feel better. You can move better. Your endurance is better. And your lifts are going up. Like every lift is going up. And that's something that you probably wouldn't have thought was actually possible unless you actually tried it. So that, like you said, people need to get out of that comfort zone and actually just try new things and figure out what's going to work the absolute best for them.
Yeah, especially when people hit a plateau, whether it's in diet or fitness or performance, they start hitting a plateau and they think, oh, I have to press on the gas harder. Like, imagine you're driving a car, like going downhill, and all of a sudden you stop, and you think, okay, I have to just press the gas harder. Well, you're already pressing the gas. Maybe you should think about taking your foot off the brake. So what's the thing that's causing you to stop that progress?
Right.
It's not that you're not working hard enough usually. It's usually there's some sort of limiting factor that's causing that stall or that loss of progress, just because, if you're not addressing your sleep, maybe you want to have more progress in the gym, you want to improve your body composition, you're not addressing your sleep or you're not addressing your nutrition, and you're just coming to the gym and working out, all of a sudden, okay, maybe the first 4 weeks you make progress, but then after that, you stall out because you're not addressing that limiting factor. It's like that weak link in the chain. Like your chain is only as strong as its weakest link. And so if you want to reach your ultimate goals, you have to make sure that every chain is strong enough to be able to pull on each other to get you where you want to go.
And that kind of leads into, so the analogy that we can use is kind of like the subjects in school. So obviously you start very basic. You start with addition, subtraction, other subjects, just very basic stuff, and then you progress throughout school. Well, if you're only focusing on math and math only, you're not going to move to the next grade. You're going to get held back. You're going to get stuck. So what do you do if you're failing social studies? You probably focus on social studies, and you have to put all your effort into that until you can get that up to the next level, and then you can progress to the next grade. So if you're only focusing on math, you're never ever going to graduate. You're always going to fail. That's kind of like what people do with fitness. If you compare fitness to math, if you're just doing fitness, but you're not focusing on nutrition, sleep, the habits outside, you're still going to fail in the long run. So you have to focus on those areas that you're weaker on. If you're weak in nutrition, you've got to focus on that area. If you don't get enough sleep, you need to focus on that area and bring them all up together. That way you're moving forward progressively, and then eventually you can graduate, or whatever you want to call it. But I think a lot of people get caught up in just doing what they're good at or what they like. So like, I liked math the best when I was in high school, which is probably contrary to what most people like, but I had to focus on getting the work done in my other subjects as well in order to graduate and move on, right? So it's not just about what you like and what you prefer. You need to step outside of your comfort zone and actually address those weaknesses inside and outside of the gym. That's what I think a lot of people don't realize, is that your workouts are about 20% of that result. The other 80% is your nutrition and your sleep and those habits outside of the gym. If you work out 3, 4, 5 days a week for 45 minutes to an hour, you got 3 or 5 hours. What are you doing the other 160 hours that you're not in the gym? So we really need to start looking at health and fitness as a whole, focusing on whatever areas that are really holding you back. Like you said, like hitting that brake as you're hitting the gas. You can't outwork a bad diet. That's another really popular thing, is people think that they can just add more cardio. Again, doing the things that they like to do or they think that's going to work, and you're just going to keep spinning your tires.
Yeah, exactly. I like the spinning the tires. And along the lines of like grades, obviously there's going to be things that people are naturally better at or they like more. So like for you with math, like you really like math, and then you really like, the CrossFit stuff, but then, you realize you were failing in your recovery, your mobility, the accessory work that's going to keep your joints and your back and everything healthy, so that way you can actually keep developing the thing that you love, which is competitive CrossFit. So then what you have to do is at least get that up to like a passing, if we're still using the school analogy. So you don't have to ace your weaknesses. Some people might not ever be able to, just because of their lifestyle or you're really only going to ace the things you really love. Some people are really excellent with their diet, and then the workouts, maybe they really like cardio, but they're scared to do the resistance training. Okay, adding it in a little bit kind of bumps that up, so that way it's no longer holding you back. And then that way you can still keep progressing on the things that you really like to do, and then kind of add things in here or there just to keep you at like a passing grade for everything.
Yeah. I'd rather have all B's than an A and all B's.
Yes, exactly.
Or whatever. Like, if you got 3 F's and an A and compared to all 4 B's, like I'd rather have the 4 B's, right? So it's sometimes you got to take a step back from the things that you love or things that are going really well and focus a little bit more attention in the other areas, which I'm reducing my training volume and I'm doing less heavy barbell work, so less Olympic and strength training, a little bit less gymnastics, and I'm focusing more on accessory mobility, stuff like that. So sometimes you are going to have to peel back from one area and put it into another area. So I like that.
You only got like 5 or 6 glasses of water. Each glass is like your Olympic lifting, your accessories, but you only have so much water.
Right.
So you have to take some water out of your Olympic lifting and your gymnastics and cardio and put it in more of your mobility accessory. 100%. And that's just how it works. Same thing with time. There's only so much of it in a day, so you got to take some out of this to put it in that, and you have to make sacrifices at the end of the day. So,
and that's a good point, because a lot of people, they actually make the excuse that they don't have the time to work out or eat healthy. So 100% of their focus is on job and probably kids. Well, eventually that's going to catch up with you, and your health's going to deteriorate from that, and then you're not able to take care of your kids, or maybe you're not able to work to the level that you want to, all because you didn't take a little bit of that water or a little bit of that time and sprinkle it into the areas that you need to focus on. People don't realize that they can literally be fit and healthy for the rest of their life if they just walk every day. It takes 15 minutes, 30 minutes, and eat a little bit healthier 70% of the time. So by taking a little bit of that resources of your time and maybe a little bit of money and investing it in those areas brings everything up. Your better quality of life, you're able to do more, have more energy. It raises everything up. So I love that you use that analogy, because it relates to so many other things than just your fitness, right?
People think it's a lot more than it is. A lot more time commitment. And
actually, that's a good point, because we actually talked about this the other day. There's a bunch of gym owners, as you guys know, like we use Zoom a couple days a week. A bunch of gym owners and I, like, we just discuss anything about health and fitness. So we were trying to decide, okay, what is the minimum amount of time that somebody can spend in the gym to be able to like achieve their goals or just be fit and healthy? And some of our classes are 30 minutes, 3 days a week. So an hour and a half of exercise a week. Pull out your calculator. Divide 1.5 divided by 168 and tell me what you get.
Not much.
0.0089% of your time.
So not even 1%.
Not even 1% of your time. And you can be strong, fit, and healthy. And that's just the fitness part. And then, with nutrition, like, we try to make it as simple as possible. If you can meal prep 1 or 2 days a week, maybe it takes you an hour. So maybe you got an hour or 2 to meal prep lunches or dinners. And then you maybe spend 15 minutes putting together a snack bucket to have snacks for the week or something. You might have another hour or 2 invested for your nutrition. So all in all, in a week, to be on track with your nutrition and your fitness, you're looking at maybe like 3 to 5 hours invested, which is still 2-3% of your week. So it does not take very much.
I really, really like that analogy with, people pouring all of their time and their energy into their kids, their work. But yeah, it does tie in. Like, if you're failing on taking care of yourself, you're failing on the nutrition, the exercise front, it's going to catch up to you and hold you back. So you're not going to be the employee. You're not going to have the job performance that you want. You're not going to be able to be the caregiver, provider for your family that you want to be. And it really does encompass everything, not just the health and fitness part, but sometimes you do have to take a little bit of a time away for yourself. And I think parents have a hard time doing that, like especially moms. They, I hear a lot of moms that, they haven't taken time for themselves in years. And then they finally get to a breaking point where they're ready to come in and make a change. And, if you just like take some time for yourself, even if it's, like 3% of your time during the week, and do that, and then it's just going to carry over in the rest of your life. And it brings up everything so you can be better in every other area.
Yep, 100%. Yeah. Anything else you guys want to add?
I don't think so.
I would say maybe just action items.
Yeah.
So I would say start actively thinking about, okay, what are some areas that I'm struggling in? Is it my fitness? Is it my nutrition? Maybe my energy is really bad. Okay, how can I boost my energy up? Maybe it's starting to, introduce some workouts or cardio or just going for a walk, getting outside.
Yeah.
Maybe it's my sleep. Like maybe I need to prioritize my sleep. So find your weaknesses, identify them, write them down, and then come up with an action plan and test things out for 2, 4, 8 weeks and see if you make improvements.
Yeah. Come in and ask us about it.
Yeah.
We can
That
help
too.
Yeah.
Yep.
Write down on a scale of do like a scale of 1 to 10.
Mm-hmm.
And then 10 would be like absolutely like the best. Not like this would be like a professional athlete. If a professional athlete was, their nutrition, their workouts. So very few people would get to like a 10, but you can at least go from like, okay, maybe you start at a 2, which is, maybe eating a vegetable a couple times a week.
Yeah.
And it's like, okay, we want to go from a 2. Let's try and see if we can make it a 3. We're not going to try and jump from a 2 to a 9.
Right.
We can make little changes along the way. So maybe rank yourself scale of 1 to 10 on your fitness, like your workouts, your nutrition. Maybe it is family or relationships, your recovery, your sleep. And then over time, maybe like once a month, kind of revisit that and just check yourself on it and see if you are improving your weaknesses. And then you can see that progress over time.
Yeah, I love that.
Yep.
Start ranking yourself 1 to 10. Figure out where those weaknesses are. Put together a little plan and try to just get one step better. Right.
Yeah.
One rung in the ladder at a time. You can't just jump up to the top of the building. Like you got to climb the ladder one rung at a time. So awesome. Hopefully this helps somebody out there. We'll be posting this recording in the group. Plus, I'll repost it on Monday in case anybody misses it. If you have any questions whatsoever, feel free to post them in the comments, message us. We're open to topics as well, so we want to know what people might want to learn about, might need help with. So let us know if there's any topics that you want us to cover. We would be happy to do that. So until next time, stay healthy. Thanks again for tuning in to the Trainer Talk. If you are ready to gain back control of your health and fitness, we would love to sit down and chat with you to see if we can put together a plan for you. All you have to do is head to taylorhutchinsonfitness.net and book a free consult. Again, make sure you like and subscribe if you like the video, and hopefully we'll see you soon.